Video, I'm going to walk you through on how to generate a README file using node.js. What is node.js? Node.js is a runtime environment that executes JavaScript code outside a web browser. And Node.js has a lot of packages that web developers can use building an application. One of these is Inquirer. And what is Inquirer? Inquirer help us to create a command line interface for the query-based tasks like parsing the inputs and validating the answers. So in order to run the Node.js on your application, you have to call the const.fs, like what I have written here on my index.js file, require fs. That means we are calling that function or that module to work with the file system on our computer. And secondly, we have to call the const inquirer require inquirers. That means that we are calling that function to read and parse all the array of questions we have written in our index file. And now, in order to test our Node.js or to run our Node.js on our computer, we have to navigate on our terminal. And we have to run node index targeting the index file that consists all the codes for our application. So it's either you can put node index or node index.js. It doesn't matter because the files already knew or the computer already knew which file we are referring to. So if we run the node index, it should prompt us the first question from an array of questions that I have created here on the top. As you can see, the first question that I have inputted is what's the title of your project? So if I'm going to answer this, it should be validated or saved. And the next question will appear. So add your name to the Readme file. I'm gonna say Alma Brown. Write a description for your project. So description always best to put on your project to help the user understand what is your project all about. So it helps you to generate a professional README file for your projects faster. So this is the description of my application. So write out installation instruction. I have default answer here. So just key in that npm init, yes. Provide information of application usage. So I have put some default answer here. Follow the steps. How to contribute, and I have put some default answer here with the guidelines. And I added some links on how to contribute if your application is a test, say how to use them here. So I'm testing this application through npm test or node.js test, running that on my computer. Npm test. What is your GitHub username? Let me say my GitHub username and your email address. This GitHub username and your email address should appear also on the README file where you're trying to write this. As you hit enter, and what kind of license you are using. If your project are using license, I have put some choices here like MIT license, GNU license, Apache license, or if your project has none, but it's always best to have a license. So if you choose MIT one of this license, it should return you a license badge, a license link, and a general license. So let me say my project has a Apache license, and hit enter. And here, as you can see, we have the word success. So I console log if generating this file is success. So I have to say like success. So it means that we successfully create a new file. And as you can see on the left side, where our Readme generator directory is located, there is a highlighted file named generated Readme file here. So that means this is the new file that was being added to our GitHub repository or our project. And now we're going to check that. As you can see here. So in order for us to see the format of this file, if we're going to push this on our GitHub repository, Visual Studio Code has this preview, so we can view the format of this file. If we click here, and now this is the file that we just created. So this project's licensed under Apache file because we use that. This is the badge, and this is the link for the license and description, what we have written in our terminal. Here in the initial file, it helps generate a professional Readme file for your projects faster. It helps you in here it's the same, and what we have written on our terminal, it helps you to generate a professional Readme file for your projects faster. So that means it's all the same, and all the input and answers was being validated and returned to us and generate that as a file. So now we're going to push this on our GitHub repository. I always do the git status to see the status of my git, and as you can see, there's something here that is not committed, not yet commit to our GitHub repository, and that is our new generated file with its name generated Readme file. So we have to use the command on how to add a file on our GitHub. Git add, git commit, generate a new Readme file for testing, and git push origin main because I'm working on the main branch of my project. And now we should expect that the file was being added to our GitHub repository. We have to navigate on our GitHub repository where is our project is located, and we have to refresh. And here, as you can see, the name generated Readme file was being added to our GitHub repository. So we successfully push it, and now we're going to check this file if this is equivalent from the terminal and from the Visual Studio Code. And as you can see, in order to check this, we have to go to our Visual Studio Code. Let's minimize this to see, and to our terminal to compare what was our answer and what is the outcome. So as you can see, if you remember, we choose the Apache license, so it gives us the badge license, and it's here also the same. It gives us the badge license, Apache license, the link, and we choose here, as you can see, and description. It helps to generate a professional README file for your project faster. And our answer on our terminal, it helps you to generate a professional README file for your project faster. And PNNet, the usage, follow the steps. So this is our default answer. And as you can see here, the readme file covenant, npm test git clone. So that means we successfully created a readme file using node.js. And now we're going to test the table of contents, that all the links are functioning properly. So in order to test that, we have to go to one link, and it should navigate us to the target section. So if I say questions, it should bring us to the questions. So as you can see, here is the questions. And if you're going to choose the license, and it's bring us to the license. So I have to move this to the left, so it's going to be read as a file. But the rest, as you can see, we successfully generate a readme file for our project using backend or node.js. And if you want to test this application, you have to go to my GitHub repository and clone it, open on your Visual Studio Code, and run on your terminal, answer all the questions, and there you can see how this application works. And that's all. Happy coding!